Okay, now we're going to work on question 4. 4a, refer to the demand curve below. Calculate the price elasticity of demand between the price range of $70 and $60. So we'll just recreate this demand curve, or a near proximity. So this is the price, quantity, and a downward sloping demand curve. And at a price of 70, the quantity demanded is 40. And at a price of 60, the quantity demanded is 50. So our formula for elasticity is the change in quantity demanded divided by the change in price times price over quantity demanded. So the change in quantity demanded is 50 minus 40. And the change in price is 60 minus 70. Now we're using the midpoints formula, so when we use the price, we want to take the average of the two prices. So the two prices are 60 and 70, and the average is going to be therefore 65. And the two quantities are 40 and 50, and so the average of that is 45. So 50 minus 40 is 10. 60 minus 70 is minus 10 times 65 over 45. And this is minus 1 times 65 over 45. And so our elasticity is minus 1.44. And then the question asks us, what is the significance of this price elasticity of demand? And is it price elastic or price inelastic? So since the absolute value of this elasticity, 1.44, is greater than 1, so the elasticity, the absolute value, is greater than 1, we know that this is price elastic. And if we want to add some significance, well, we know that if it's price elastic, therefore if we want to increase revenue, we would need to decrease the price. Question 4b is pretty simple. Ford Motor Company announced a major rebate program for its cars and trucks. The rebate program amounts to a simple reduction in price. Company executives hope to increase revenue as a result of this rebate program. Well, we just sort of explained this. What economic explanation would justify this decision? So they're essentially planning to decrease price, and they're hoping that that's going to result in an increase in revenue. Well, we just said that. It sort of means that they believe that their cars are price elastic. So, elastic demand for Fords. For question 5a, for the following case, use the midpoints formula to calculate the coefficients for cross elasticity of demand and identify the type of relationship between the two products. Quantity demanded for A, product A decreases from 3,000 to 1,500 as the price of good B increases from $5 to $10. So the elasticity for cross price elasticity is the change in quantity demanded of one good divided by the change in price of the other good times the price of the other good over the quantity demanded of the first good. So this is the change in quantity is going to be 1,500 minus 3,000. And the change in price is 10 minus 5. And again, we're using the midpoints formula, so the average price is 7.5. And the average quantity is 2250. And this gives us an elasticity, cross-price elasticity of -1. And so since it's cross-price elasticity of -1, this is a negative number, this means that we are dealing with complements. The price of apples has gone up, and therefore people are demanding, maybe apples isn't the greatest, so the price of coffee has gone up, and so people are going to drink less coffee, and therefore less coffee cream as well. These are complements. 5b, what are the basic differences between a public good and a private good? And I'll just state these. A private good, these are goods we normally think of possessing, and these are goods that are both rival and exclusionary, meaning that I can keep somebody from using the good if I own it, and my use of the good diminishes someone else's use of the good. So if you think of something like a hamburger, if I have the hamburger, someone else doesn't have the hamburger, and when I eat the hamburger, someone else can't use the hamburger or eat the hamburger. So this is an obvious example of a private good. A public good is a good that's non-exclusive and non-rival, which means that you can't prevent someone from using it, and someone's use of the good doesn't diminish someone else's use of the good. So think about a public park. When I go use the public park, someone else can go use the public park. And if I'm walking in the park, other than crowding, that doesn't necessarily diminish someone else's use of the park. So because of this, private goods are typically provided privately by businesses, whereas public goods, there is no incentive, because you can't keep somebody from using a public good, there's no incentive for businesses to provide that privately. So if we're going to have public goods, they need to be provided by the government. 5c, consider product X. Suppose demand for X is more elastic than the supply of X. Okay, so let's draw those curves for product X. Price and quantity. And it says the demand is more elastic than the supply. So we'll draw a relatively elastic demand curve and a relatively inelastic supply curve. And so here are our equilibrium quantity and our equilibrium price. And now we say, suppose the government is imposing a $1 tax on producers. Well, if it's a tax on producers, that's going to affect the supply curve, and supply is going to shift to the left. So this is our after-tax supply curve. So we have a new equilibrium quantity. And we know that the buyers are going to pay more, and we go down the amount that the tax shifted to the other supply curve, and this gets our price that the sellers receive. And so we can see how this tax, which is the difference between these two curves, is split. The sellers are going to pay a lot more than the buyers. So the producers pay more for the tax.